Overkill.
Hey, how's it going, you guys? We've got a switch here with a broken charging port. As you can see, these pins are pretty bent out of whack. If you think that your switch isn't charging due to a broken charging port, you should look inside your port very closely, maybe with your phone camera light or a camera with a really good zoom function, and look to see if those pins are bent in any way, like this. If they are, unfortunately, you're going to need a new port. And trying to charge it in this condition will damage some components. You see how these pins all the way towards the back are touching the ground plane, which is this metal ring around here. That's connected to the ground of your motherboard, so that's an instant short, as well as all these other pins touching each other. Now when you run a charger in there with all those different contacts, 5 volts, etc., running through each one of these pins, you're going to cause some damage. So what I do is I strip it down, I get down to the port, I add some solder, and I change the port out. So without further ado, let me show you how I do it. This is the kind of service that you'll get if you get a repair through me, VG Repairs. But if you just need some help for doing it on your own, that's great too. Ask away in the comments if there's anything that I want some clarification on. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and get started with some flux. I've got a syringe here. I'm just going to add some flux liberally on each area where I know I'll need it, which are the pins in the back and these 4 contacts on the sides. Spread it on around in there. Make sure you add a good amount. Just like that. Next, I'm going to turn on my fume extractor and my soldering iron. You're going to hear a whirring sound like a vacuum. Unfortunately, that's this thing. There's not much I can do about that. I'll be using some 6040 leaded solder, and I'm going to be flooding these contacts here to dilute it and lower the overall melting temperature so that it's easier and faster to remove. Just like that. Now, although I recommend for anyone to learn as much as they can about things that help in repairing things around their house, cars, video game consoles, TVs, printers, I have to admit, there is a high learning curve here, and there are a lot of tools and materials that you'll need, which you might not have to begin with. Amazon has some kits that range in price. If you have questions about something that you're looking into purchasing that's going to help take your repair game to the next level, or if you're just a beginner, like I said, throw it down in the comments. I've been doing this a long time to get my setup to where it is today, and I still have room for improvement. But I know what it's like to have to work off of a microscope camera, or even just my bare eyes when I was first starting out. Here, I'll show you guys something. This is a relic from my past. This was a huge upgrade for me, believe it or not. This thing. Yeah. You've probably seen these at the dollar store or at flea markets. See how I modified these clips, these alligator clips, to have some tape and some foam there so that I wouldn't crush the things I was working on. I mean, these were rough times, but trust me, I've been there. I've also used those cheap USB cameras that you see all over the internet. I mean, I've had pretty good results with those, honestly. Flipping the board over and doing the same thing on the other side. I use Amtech flux. It's good quality. The reason that we're diluting this solder is because the solder used on factory boards, due to health regulations, has to be lead free. Usually silver, which has a high melting point. And that's no good for repair guys. So we're gonna have to replace it with something just as good, if not better, leaded solder, which is gonna make the job a lot faster. Sometimes you end up with weird situations like this where the solder just will not adhere. I'm gonna flip this around. Since it's stubborn, we're gonna put some more flux here, and we're going to heat it up a little more with our tip. See if we can get some solder on there. There we go. Now we're gonna heat it up and get that poured off. Now that the port's off, we're going to prep the area, and then we're going to install our new one. You'll notice for a lot of the repair, your board isn't going to look the cleanest or the nicest, but that's just because of the chemicals that you're using and the amount of flux and solder involved. By the time we're done, your brand new board will function perfectly. You might have a couple of flux marks on your board, but as long as it's not corrosive, you'll be totally fine. Well, looks good to me. Let's get our new port on. That is ready to go right there. We're going to touch up those points, reassemble this, and test it out. Now this is a part where you have to be very careful and have a quite steady hand. You can tell we're magnified so much that even though I'm barely moving this board, it is bouncing all over the place under the camera. So bear with me here. It's gonna look like it's bouncing around a lot. Rich? Got another bridge. I'm going to touch up all the ones that moved. Basically the last 5. There's one outlier here. Oh, that is good. All right, we're good. Just gonna clean this up now and finally test it out. All right, you guys, that's it. New port's in. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, hit me up, okay? Thank you. Here's the switch. Just got the repair done. It is charging, and it's ready to go back to the client.
Game over.